people. Yeah, it's quite a situation that we're dealing with right now regarding the lungs. And we get some miracle results, and that's the most important thing, is that we are we're getting the results and the people are improving and getting well. And we've got everything from people with COPD, chronic obstructive pulmonary disorders, to emphysema, to silicosis, to asbestos stuck in the lungs as well. So let's have a look at moving forward and getting some of the information through. So these little sneezes and stuff, let's just go back there. Don't ignore these sneezes, because this is a good way to actually spread disease. I'm not saying it's a good way to spread genetic material. It's a good way to, the little droplets, it's a good way to spread the general bacteria and fungi and things like that. But not necessarily genetic material, if you're following me. I don't think you can sneeze that out, just to say. All right, so you don't want people sneezing on you, and no one wants to wear masks. But if you're going into a crowded place, onto an aeroplane, you would probably want to shield yourself with the shield and or something over your nose and your mouth. You probably would. I'm not saying it's going to keep everything out, but at least some things. If someone did sneeze near you, I would go and change the mask, for example. But I would also try and not get into crowded areas right now, to be honest with you, because there's just too much going on. So if we have a look at the lungs, let me just bring the Facebook people a little bit closer. We've obviously got a pair of unhealthy lungs and a pair of healthy lungs, and we all know which choice we would want. And believe you me, some people's lungs are an absolute mess, and I don't even know how they're getting the remotest amount of oxygen into their bodies. So lots of factors that add to this, and one of the biggest one is smoking. So you can see just getting the Facebook people, you can see the lungs there and the horrible mess they can get into. Once you get into this kind of a mess, you've actually got a lot of mucus, and a lot of mucus is a breeding ground for all sorts: parasites, bacteria, funguses, mycoplasmas, tuberculosis, to just come and breed and co-host, and more will come, and the mucus will attract even more people. And the toxins from the cigarettes, the toxins from previous vaccinations, diphtheria, for example, likes to go and lodge and reside in the lungs as well. So we often see on the quantum devices the lungs, and we will see the relevant vaccination that's lodged from childhood in the lungs, and is constantly causing infections as soon as the immune system goes down or stress goes up. So people never quite get rid of it and never quite feel they've taken a proper breath of air. And also really, some of them struggle with sport as well, obviously, because you're not getting enough oxygen to the muscles as quickly as possible. So very important, this the space of the lungs and the surface area of the lungs. And you will attract all sorts of worms and flukes and things that I'm going to show you about in a moment. So really just looking at the truth of everything there. We know we're dealing with a fragment, and if it so happens that there is a lung infection, it's got nothing directly to do with the fragment. All right, that person most probably already had a mycoplasma, which is a GM organism, they most likely have a bacterial pneumonia in some instances. They will have definitely funguses growing. So you never get one organism. People can't tell you that I have this infection in my lungs. That doesn't happen. You get a whole lot of them. And that will happen for the rest of the body as well, even the gut. You don't only have H. pylori. You have a co-hosting of worms, bacteria, funguses, parasites, together with the genetically modified foods and everything that come through. So it's never only one, really, is the point that I wanted to make. The other point I want to make, which is actually quite a serious point, if you do get a lung infection and you do end up in hospital, you will either get both an antifungal or an antibacterial. Now, what happens if you don't have a bacterial or a fungal, or what if you have a bacterial and a fungal plus a mycoplasma or some other parasite? They're all co-hosting and living together, or some other GM organism. What's going to happen when, let's say, you only get an antibiotic? All right, I'm going to leave that with you to think about, and we'll answer that towards the end. Okay, it's quite a very serious question, actually. So, as I say, the truth about all of this, and the reason why the lungs are a problem, is because it's one of the detox organs. Okay, so if the kidneys are blocked, the gut's blocked, the skin's blocked, the liver's blocked, and the lungs are probably blocked as well, how does the body detoxify itself? How it recognizes foreign matter. How does it detoxify itself if the toxin can't get out? So just about everybody who gets this massive lung infection has got blocked lungs in some way or another. They're either a smoker, and there's mucus buildup, and they've got a whole host of infections and toxins in the lungs. Okay, so lung toxicity is a big problem, and we need to clean these lungs and restore them. People who've already had pneumonia before, severe bronchitis, chronic bronchitis, must know that they're little lesions. So the bacteria and fungi and pathogens and stuff leave a big lesion. They leave scarring. So if you think every breath you take, there is a mucous membrane where the oxygen, using an oxygen transfer enzyme, goes through the mucous membrane and into the blood. Now, if the surface area is restricted, every breath you take, let's say it's 50% restricted, you're only going to get 50% of the blood, oxygen going through to the blood. Then let's say you don't have hemoglobin, iron. Let's say you don't have iron in the blood, or very little. How are you going to then transfer that 50% of the oxygen around the body? Let's say also that the blood is thick. We've talked about this, full of fatty deposits. Let's say the diameter of the arteries is constricted because there's plaque on the inside. Let's say there's protein fibers in the blood. Let's say there's also parasites, bacteria, fungi, etc. in the blood, and the blood's really thick and heavy. Very little iron. It's moving slowly. So now you're getting about 25% of the oxygen to each vital organ per minute, as opposed to 100%. So then, of course, you're going to feel down. Of course, the body's not going to function properly. Of course, the heart's going to be compromised, and the brain, and the memory, and the thinking clearly, and ultimately the living productively. So these are all things that are going to interfere and reduce the amount of oxygen to the vital organs per minute. And obviously, if the oxygen is poor in the air to start with, we've got a problem too. But when we take a breath in and when we breathe out, we're actually breathing out some of the oxygen as well, because the body doesn't actually use the full amount of oxygen per breath. So at the moment, we're still okay, but still the amount of oxygen is lower. So we have to do everything we can in our capacity to make sure that each in-breath, the oxygen in each in-breath is taken to the vital organs as quickly as possible, because they need to be detoxified, and oxygen detoxifies the organs. We think it's for for life. It's actually to detoxify the body. It's a scavenger. It has a voltage of 1.3. And its job is to go and scavenge and detoxify the body. We've got 3 minutes. And if we don't get oxygen, we die, not because of lack of oxygen, because of toxin buildup. Can you see how important every single breath is to detoxify our body? Okay, and that's what it's doing. And we have to make sure that everything's right. We need to make sure that the lungs have got a good mucous membrane, that there's enough oil feeding that mucous membrane so the bacteriophages can live in that mucous membrane to ward off infection. Okay, because it's coming straight in from the air. Someone sneezed on you, and so on. I'm not saying you're going to get sick every time someone sneezes on you, because most people don't. But if your immune system is compromised, your body will then get sick, or 9 times out of 10, it will pick up on the toxin that was sneezed out, cadmium, and it will then, your body will then react to that toxin that's inside you. All right. So the immune response comes from within. We don't generally catch things from people, because if we did, we would all be sick all the time. It's when your immune system is down and that specific toxin is in your body that you will then react to that toxin. Do you see? Okay, so that's important part as well. So this in-breath and the out-breath are literally the beginning and the end, and that is the truth about everything, every single infection and disease. And that out-breath, that carbon dioxide coming out and all the wastes, is the end result of the oxygen scavenging free radicals in your body. Okay, so the in-breath, bringing in the free radical oxygen, and the out-breath, letting out all the waste that's already got scavenged. Heavy metals, insecticides, pesticides. All right, so that's what we're doing when we're breathing. We're detoxifying. And when we breathe out, we're eliminating, similar to the kidneys. Similar to the alimentary tract, we are eliminating. And those people who are breathing so shallowly are also not filling the lungs. So that huge breath is not coming in. Stress is happening and they're just breathing here. So we have a whole neurological effect with the breathing too. So the airway must be open. Okay, we must eat some also really good foods. The good foods for the lungs are the broccolis, the leafy lettuces, the leafy plants. Are the foods for the heart and the lungs. All right. And remember the leaves, because, and this is Rudolf Steiner that I'm speaking about here, it is the respiration. So the leaf, the outer part of the leaf, especially the under part of the leaf, is the membrane between the external outside air and feeding into the plant. Same with our lungs. It's the interface between the outside and the inside. So that kind of gives us information that we've talked about many times. And this part here, as I said to you, is the fragment. And it's dealt with on a completely separate level. So let's just have a look at some of these, top infections and things. Pneumonias. And pneumonias are brought about by bacteria and funguses, and they will live inside you if the immune system is low, if you don't have a good mucous membrane lining the lungs, and if there's low amounts of oxygen in the body and high acidity in the body. You'll get these kind of things happening, and it really is compromised people. I just want to say one thing at this point, and that is that the lungs are the seat of sadness, lungs and heart. And so when people are grieving and sad about events in their lives, emotional events, together with some sort of anxiety and stress and all the rest of it, they're the people that will get the continual lung infections, lung diseases, lung problems. And it will be accentuated if you've got toxins in there. If you've got toxicity in the lungs, silicosis, cadmium, vaccinations lodged in there, it does exacerbate the problem. If you're smoking, of course, and if your environment is very dirty, the air, it's going to exacerbate that as well. So those of us who live in relatively clean air should be really grateful, because there's many people that actually don't. So pneumonias, as I said, are generally bacterial or fungal. They will also, the GM parasites will also be named pneumonia, but they will have been manufactured. Then we also get the second one. Now, the second one is definitely GM, and a softer word for tuberculosis is mycoplasma. So I will see mycoplasma probably 1 in 5 patients easily. That's how common it is, especially the people who live in wet, cold, damp cities. London, Cape Town, those kind of cities, because it's just a breeding ground. It just loves it. And it gets right in and deep and sore. That pneumonia is very, very, very sore. So as I said, that one is a man-made. Emphysema, that's often related to a work environment. Smoking can bring it on. And it really, really, really does limit the amount of air that's coming through and cause people to, breathe, gasp, breathe extra deeply. So that's a scary one. Pulmonary edema is also, that is swelling. And you get that in the vessels, as well as in the airways of the lungs. And that would lead often to things, if it was higher upper respiratory, it would lead to things like croup, where you get inflammation of the esophagus, the upper respiratory tract, and then the air can't get in. So interestingly enough, in croup, they would modern medicine would give a cortisone, because cortisone acts on the kidneys, which frees up the airway. It's just amazing, but it's instant. So we don't mess with anything like that. We also get, pleurisy and water on the lungs. And most of this is linked to infection and toxicity. So we've got to cleanse and then repair and restore the lung tissue and everything that goes with it. Chronic obstructive pulmonary disease. We do have a patient who came in and couldn't breathe properly at all. So blueness around the mouth and that kind of thing will definitely indicate that. In any case, this patient was on an oxygen tank the whole night. Many patients, just as an aside, use that sleeping device. I just forget the name of it as well. Many people do. Sleep apnea. And they wake up at night and they can't breathe. So they're on that device. And anyway, the patient we have restored completely. The patient is gardening outside and is off the oxygen tank completely. And so we've restored that. We've repaired the lesions in the lungs. And we have a really, really beautiful elderly patient who has got quality of life. We've regained the dignity and the quality of life of that patient. And I'll show you the products that we use a little bit later. So very happy about that. Very happy about the people who come in, and there are many of them now. They've been coughing for 2, 3, 4 years. And within 3 days, that cough stops and doesn't come back. So something we're doing is right, and something that I'm saying is right. If I'm saying that it's linked to parasites, bacteria, fungi, and toxicity in terms of heavy metals or asbestos or things like that lodged in the lungs, I know what I'm talking about. I know that if you get that out, and you bring in some flaxseed oil, we're going to start repairing the lungs. So bring in some also herbal para-immune boost or lung cleanse, those herbal products to repair the lungs. So we've got actually many, many stories. And you know what's really frightening is that people are walking around in a hypoxic state, hypoxia, HYPO, no oxygen, very little. It's in the red. And the danger of that is that they're not detoxifying. So the toxin levels are rising and rising and rising and rising on a minute-by-minute basis. And then, of course, an asthma attack, or you get eczema, or you get a brain EEG problem or an ECG problem, and everything else that goes with lack of oxygen. The blood sugar goes sky high. So blood pressure goes sky high. The metabolic disorder sets in, metabolic shutdown. The cell vitality just slows down. You cannot get oxygen into the cell. And then you start getting cells dying, tissues dying, tissue necrosis, damage from the toxins, and eventually death. Lots of degeneration. Very, very, very important that let's have a look at some more of these, that we really look after these lungs, There's the lung cancer. And again, cancer is going to come through emotionally, neurologically, spiritually, and physically. So what we can do easily is get the physical right. It's not going to completely mend. But as we're restoring the physical, the emotional side will mend, because we will have the energy and the strength to deal with emotions, and they won't be so important anymore. We will be able to let go of the stressful things. We will become more alkaline, more calm, more focused, more thinking clearly on things we need to think about, less tolerance for things that don't worry us anymore. More tolerance for the things that don't worry us. We can let them go. And the thing is, cancerous tissue is degenerative tissue where the life force is left and the cells can't regenerate anymore. And that then becomes a breeding ground. Dead, necrotized, old tissue in the body becomes a breeding ground for, you name it, candida, fungus, bacteria, everything. And then with not enough oxygen and high acidity levels, more infections, more inability of the body to remove the damaged degenerative tissue, and it just takes over. All right, and then metastasizes into other areas of the body because the symptoms of the body are wrong. The parameters, the electromagnetic field of the body is wrong. So we always have to make sure that electromagnetic field, our charge, that cell phone must be plugged in. Our body must be plugged in permanently, and we need charge. When we've got that charge and we've got the right chemical makeup from the nutrients, also alchemy, we are then in a situation where the biology, physical, neurological, emotional, spiritual, will hang together. We can't go straight for the biology. From a quantum medicine point of view, which is what I practice, we work electromagnetically, chemically, and then the biology. Okay. And then we have the successes that we have, because the cell vitality picks up, the charge around each cell is renewed, oxygen and food go in, waste and carbon dioxide and water come out, energy gets produced. Okay, and that's what we do with the quantum QUEX ED machines, devices, the world's largest software medical platform, and then the food state, natural, nature-made, quantum foods that we use as medicine, and the minerals that we use and the oils that we use. So it's a continuous cycle And I could be having this lecture and speaking about the gut, about the kidney, the skin, the liver, and I'm going to be repeating the same thing because it is all about the same thing. The slight differences would be astrologically what you brought in, the deficiencies or excesses that you brought in just into the earthly plane, areas that you need to work on, like the lungs, for example. You might have brought sadness in or attached to the sadness from the ancestors, your parents, for example. So the area that gets attacked will be the weakest point, and the reason for the weakest point, as I said, hereditary, karmic, the lessons you need to learn, and then also environmental exposure to lots of insecticides, living on a mine, breathing in all the mine dust, in occupational, working with computer printing chemicals, working in factories that produce hormones, for example, working with lots of fiberglass. Those little fibers will lodge in your lungs too. Okay, so all I'm saying is that the causes can be a little bit different, and the reasons for those causes can be a bit different. But at the end of the day, we need to be alkaline, pH 7.4. We have to have virtually no inflammation, and then we won't let diseases and everything come in and degenerate us. And I just want to repeat the work by Endeline, a French doctor. And they did experiments with their pH at exactly 7.4, and they drank a whole glass of cholera-infected water and never got sick. All right, so that proves that it disproves germ theory. It disproves that the infection is coming from outside into us and making us sick, which is what I was saying. If someone sneezes on you, you got to make sure that your pH is 7.4, that you don't have inflammation, that your airways are clean, that your gut is clean, your liver is clean, your skin is clean, and your kidneys are clean, the detox organs, so that immediately it comes in, your body's defense organisms can go into an opportunistic form. The bacteria and fungi, which are normally peaceful and helpful to us, will automatically shift and go and attack any foreign invader. So will the white blood cells. So will stem cells. They will form the beta, the T cells, the NKF cells, and go and attack, right? And then it's done and dusted. Nothing's going to happen. Okay, but the toxins, the GM toxins, are the ones to worry about because we didn't make them from inside. So they might have a name as a bacteria or a fungus, but they're not the normal opportunistic ones that we make, right? They've GM'd. So our body can't always find them and see them. And that's where we need products like the Replica RNA DNA to boost the immune system, to make it more aware of the fact that there's other invading man-made proteins in the body that our natural, normal immune system was not wired to go and find. That makes sense to you. We weren't designed to fight off this amount of toxins. So we've got to be extra careful that we are extra clean. And that's why we have infrared saunas, 14 micron infrared saunas. We have 2 of them, and for 2 people at a time. And we get people through because it is an extremely effective way of detoxifying. You only need 30 minutes, and you don't need extreme temperatures. 50 degrees is perfect. And you come out of there alive. You come out of there seeing clearer, thinking clearer. That's why we've got the herbal preparations that I put together, the ormuses, the cell oxygen, flaxseed oils, etc., to come in and make sure that we are at not optimum health, maximum health all the time. And we have maximum life force, maximum charge all the time. Thinking clearly, living consciously, connected to universal consciousness, and able to receive the cosmic radiation that's out there, microwave radiation that's there, that we need to be, that we bathed in all the time. Make sure that we're receiving that and that it's recharging us all the time. Okay, these are important things, and as I said to you, it doesn't matter what I'm speaking about. Okay, if you can get this right in your body, you will be absolutely fine, and you will understand quantum medicine. You will understand and be directly connected without stuff in the way to the morphogenic field and the universal consciousness, which is where we're living anyway. The quantum field is here anyway. The trees, the animals are all in perfection. A herd of impala or buck are in perfection. All right. And they are more in sync with the quantum field than we are, because we've got thoughts and emotions, and we are striving to raise our vibration and our DNA to higher and higher and higher levels. So we've allowed pollution to get in the way, and we're going to reestablish that so that we are thinking clearly, living productively, and have maximum health. That is the ultimate aim, and then to do our purpose on earth, the reason why we came. So in order to fulfill all of that, we need the body as our temple, and we need the electromagnetic forces and the right chemical structure, right atoms, ions, and alchemy to be happening inside our body. That is how breatharians can operate, because they're charged. They're charged all the time, and they are alchemically making the chemicals that they need. So actually eating food is the grossest form of getting energy in, just to say. And when you're sick, if you're eating cooked food, too much cooked food, when you're sick, you are really going to drain whatever little bit of energy is left. We need to bring in life force foods, spirulina, blue-green algae, medicinal mushrooms, pollen, propolis, royal jelly, almost gold. None of these things need energy to digest, and they leave you with energy so that they're going to boost the body's ability to go and heal. So let's have a look at some more of these. And these are all really just symptoms that the body's gone out of balance, that the body's absorbed toxins and not able to remove them. And the minute we fix this, like the minute with a diabetic patient, the minute we get the virus, not the GM'd ones, the bacteria, the funguses out, the toxicity out of the pancreas, and get the hypothalamus working and the cell vitality right, it's all the same thing. The blood sugar normalizes spontaneously. So we call it miracle medicine, because we know what we're doing. The quantum device and the 365 Healthier by Choice products, it's a formula. And we've got lots and lots of practitioners working with us now. We've got also quite a few branches open. So if anybody is keen to open up a branch, we're there, we're ready, we're here to help you. All right. And also the retailers. We've got quite a few retailers around the world right now. And so when I talk, I'm speaking globally anyway. Acute respiratory distress syndrome. And all of these things, well, the problem is the pulmonary embolism. That's not directly related to directly related to the breathing apparatus of the lungs, but that's an embolism. That's a clot that's got bigger and bigger and bigger, and it's formed a block between the heart and the lungs, or the lungs and the heart back. And that's a big problem. Very, very big problem, and needs to be unblocked and thinned out. And that will also, if the blood's too thick, you'll get pulmonary hypertension. We'll get something called obesity hypoventilation. Now that you will get in different kinds of people. So somebody with a really large abdomen, pressing down on the lungs when you sleep, you can't get that breath in, because the lungs end under the ribs, and that really does press and reduce the oxygen, and that's a problem. So weight is a very big problem. Extra large breasts are a very big problem too, because they also hang down and they block, and it's very difficult to then get that full breath in. Posture is a very big problem as well. We always want, in any event, our spine straight, so we connect it to the cosmos, thinking clearly. When you take a breath in, there's a spiral going this way. Let's just say right directed down the spine. When you breathe out, there's a spiral left directed up the spine. Exactly a vortex. exactly the scalar wave, exactly what I'm speaking about when I talk quantum. All right, so imagine me as the core of an apple with waves doing that on, and also this way, and the vortex in the middle, two vortexes, because you'll get one down and one up. That's exactly what's happening in our bodies, and it's exactly the quantum wave. It is not a linear wave. A linear wave will eventually peter out. A scalar wave stays. So when we address something with the quantum device and the software, we fix it. It's fixed. We move on to the next thing. We move on to the next thing. The only way it will unfix itself, if you like, or reappear, is if that person doesn't shift and carries on with their, let's just say, debauched lifestyle, drinking, eating processed foods, slouching on the couch, thinking bad thoughts, etc. Then possibly it'll come back. But people who are coming in need to know that there needs to be a nutrition, a detox, a lifestyle shift anyway. They need to give up things in order to get healthy. And the thing is also to, not wait for the wake-up call, to follow prevention, which is what we advocate to 365 Healthy by Choice. It's very simple. And you can only be simple when you understand health, when you understand the human body, when you understand the electromagnetic part of it. Okay. Otherwise, it becomes complicated and you've got to keep throwing research at people. That's my worst. Okay, because any university will take on any research student because they get paid per doctorate that comes out. And then companies will sponsor and pay for the research. So it's just fudged. The whole thing is fudged. So don't keep throwing research at me because I'm not interested in that. I'm interested in using a validated and verified device, registered with the FDA with a CE mark, where they've used double-blind studies to validate what I'm doing on that device, all right? And I can show improvement from A to B. Evidence-based medicine. That's what I'm interested in. Neutral, non-biased. Nobody's paid anyone to do that research. You understand what I'm saying? Okay. And the way and the reason why I know what I'm talking about and able to speak with knowledge and conviction is because I have a device that can measure before and afterwards. And I can effect a shift in an hour as well. And any of the therapists in the group, same thing. I hope I'm making sense, and I hope I'm also, simplifying it for everyone. Thanks, Vanessa. I think that the more I speak, the more of you can actually be the teachers as well, which is really phenomenal. Okay. So we don't want to have the obesity situation. Obesity is a problem anyway because just so much extra of the body that has to be oxygenated. And most of it is inflammation, and most of it is the body holding on to toxins. The minute we detoxify somebody, the weight falls off. So we don't talk about weight loss. We talk about detox. We've got a weight loss program, but it's a detox program. And it's about eating the right oils, etc., doing all the things I've just said. And then we'll also get a neuromuscular disorder, and a lot of that's got to do with stress, and it's got to do with toxins and fatty material all adhering to the nerves, and then they cannot conduct electricity. You can't charge that battery. So, the nervous system is absolutely critical. That's where it's all happening. Okay, so let's just move on now to some uglies. And I just want to say here as well is that last year I gave a presentation on oxygen and breathing and lungs and that, and there were quite a few videos and a lot of pictures on ulcers in the lungs, and the videos were showing literally the flukes coming in and out of the lung tissue, and they've gone. They have all gone. So I don't have any video to show you, sorry. But let's, I've got pictures, which is great. So the life cycle of the lung fluke, all right? Parasitic lung infection caused by lung flukes. Just know that a fluke is a flatworm, and you get flatworms in the gut, in the liver, and in the blood and in the lungs. All right, so we need to get that out. We need a para-immune boost to get that out. But like I said to you, it's not only worms. It will also be bacteria, fungi, yeasts, and engineered organisms. So what is happening here really is many of these come from all sorts of different sources, undercooked food especially, and especially seafood, especially the ground scavengers that are eating all the old stuff that's already decaying and things. So we've got to take note of all of this, and also the sources of the GM ones, because they will be put in little eggs form, and we basically get this life cycle happening, and this needs to be stopped as soon as possible. And even if you are really healthy, a little bit will remain, because you never get the GM1 out completely. So let's say a snail, let's say a bilharzia, schistosomia, that will live there. A tick bite, a rickettsia will live, and you'll never feel 100%. You'll always just feel slightly ill. Then your immune system goes down, the stress goes up, and it peaks, and it'll manifest in gut, kidney, lungs, skin, brain, because gut and brain are always linked. So very hard to get out unless you know about it, you know the source of it, and you know how to get it out. All right, and we do. So here they are. Disgusting. Absolutely disgusting. These are them here coming. This is in lung tissue, embedded in the lung tissue, causing big ulcers. The mycoplasma does the same, right? But that's an organism. These are wormy things, and this is what they look like. Flatworms. That's why they're called flat. There's all the eggs inside, and they just breed like crazy. So somebody with chronic lung infections, chronic lung disease, I'm telling you, there is massive infection going on in there. Absolute disgusting stuff happening in there. Here's the mycoplasma. It's a round organism. So when we look under the microscope, we see these round, little round circles floating across the screen. And I know people have it. You just have the mycoplasma, and it's, as I said, very prevalent. I would say 1 in 5. And very hard to get rid of. So now you've got a mycoplasma in your lungs, and they give you an antibiotic. Tell me what's going to happen. I'm waiting for your answers on the chat. You tell me what you think is going to happen. So just to show you, it's a little round one, not naturally occurring. So we have to know that we've always got to be looking at fresh, raw, whole foods, and we know now also that the whole foods plant foods have got a cell wall, and we don't have cell walls. So that cell wall is critical to repair our organs. So to get people well again, to get the cell structure happening, we need to eat cell wall from plant. So a juicer is dangerous, because a juicer only lets the juice through, right? Which in some instances is okay, but it's not going to heal you. You need a smoothie with the whole kale leaf, the whole spinach leaf, the whole broccoli. Okay. And the raw food, of course, will contain the enzyme for digestion, which helps the body a lot. And the freshness, it means it's just going to be vibrant with the antioxidants. And, you know, things like bee pollen and Cordyceps, it's in our lung cleanse and repair, are very important to stimulate the use of oxygen in the body. They don't make oxygen, they help the body use it. So does our quantum device. That's why at the end of a reading, you will have a higher oxygenation level, because it has assisted the body cells use oxygen. It's already cleaned the cell wall, a cell membrane, and it's already allowing more oxygen into the cells. That's why you get a higher oxygen reading in the cell. So very important. How are we doing? We can't get away from fresh whole food. We can't get away from water. We can't get away from oxygen. We can't get away from electromagnetic charge. Okay. So let's have a look at some of the products that we use. The para-immune defense, I originally formulated it for broad spectrum, rickettsia, spirochetes, STDs, unknowns. We blasted it out together with our oil and cell oxygen capsules and iodine sometimes, the usual things that are in my packs. And then we got the oxygen in drop form, which just took it all to the next level as a combination, and the Ormus. So this is a very clever formulation for parasites, bacteria, fungi, funguses. And it's got the top antibacterial, antifungal, anti-yeast, herbs from around the world. All right. And that you would take, okay, so that's interesting. I'll give you the big C dosage just now. And the reason I'm bringing this in is because, as I said, wherever you are in the world, you know, they're throwing variants at us, and they're throwing the second, third, fourth waves at us. So we need to be prepared, and we need to be able to help people. All right. So I spoke about flaxseed oil earlier. And the reason we talk about flaxseed oil is because it is the oil with the highest life force, period, bottom line. What does that mean? It's measurable. The atoms, the electrons are spinning around the proton and the neutron the fastest. They're most tightly bound to the proton and the neutron inside the middle of the atom. And therefore, you get more life force, right? So that oil is the oil that we use to moisten the mucous membrane linings of the lungs, the gut, and the reproductive area, and in fact, the eyes as well. So we have to have that. I can give you a situation of somebody who did get sick, and they were sneezing and coughing and sneezing, coughing, and all of that. And what we did was we took 4 para-immune capsules. We took a tablespoon of flaxseed oil in warm water with lemon juice, not the cell oxygen yet. And the person consumed all of that. Within 1 hour, there wasn't a sneeze or a cough. Literally, that's how quickly the flaxseed oil and the herbs got to work. And then we gave the oxygen after that. The symptoms never came back. So in 1 hour. And I know it had a lot to do with that oil. The herbs also work quickly, but that oil went to the target area as quickly as that. So very important. I can't actually stress it enough. I know there's someone in the audience here who virtually sleeps with their flaxseed oil bottle because of the beneficial effects. Or remember also, it's bringing in the omega 3, 6, and 9 exactly in the ratio for the human body, unlike any other omega oils. It's raw, unlike any other omega oils, unless you've got a raw olive oil. But cold pressed doesn't mean no heat. It means no heat. But what about light and air? All of those things will shift that oil into the trance state. So that is the cancer-forming state. That is the state where the enzymes are damaged, etc., etc. So the one I have, because I've obviously studied this, is pressed and bottled in 1 month and sent to me. It's not in any electromagnetic field or anything. Okay, so it's critical, you know. And then we've got our Ormus Gold, which is essential for as an energy capacitor to raise the energy of the body, to charge the body. So that's what it does. And also will scavenge and detoxify across the blood-brain barrier, get into all the little bronchioles and areas of the lungs, and start repairing, in fact, repairing the whole body. So that's a critical one. And it's working alchemically. So we're working with oil, we're working alchemically. We're working with the Respiratory lung product I told you about. It's got Siberian ginseng in to stimulate the use of oxygen. Cordyceps, and bee pollen is another one that stimulates the use of oxygen. Turmeric, and a host of herbs and superfoods that are going to come in and repair the lungs. So that's very important. As a prevention, but also after severe pneumonia or lung infections, to repair for about 3 months afterwards. And here's our replica RNA DNA, which, remember I said to you, it boosts the immune system. It knocks on the door of the immune system and says, hey, there's a foreign protein out there, you haven't found it. Let's go and get it. So it stimulates and enhances the immune system to another level. All right, and these are human sequence mRNA and RNA, which will form human DNA. And we need it. We need the building block proteins. There's 5 of them in there. The uracil, cytosine, thymine, guanine, and adenine. We have to have them. We don't easily get them. We don't eat, actually, animal organs anymore. So we rely on things like beans and marmite, bovril, yeast, black yeast fermented spreads, and that will have quite a lot in it. Also, remember, bee pollen and chlorella have got these building block proteins in them to stimulate the production of these 5 nuclear proteins that we need inside the cell to make proper DNA. And if you've got these as well, you're very less likely to get cell degeneration, because you're getting the right DNA sequence from the beginning, so less disease. So they're also important for that, but they will repair the gut, they will repair the brain, they will repair the lungs. So swimmers that have fallen down because they didn't get enough oxygen or whatever, within 2-3 days they're swimming again and competing. And I have the clinical trials for that. So very, very important product. And then we have, and these products are all vegetarian. You might even say vegan, because the pollen is actually from the flower, just to say. So then we talked about the cell oxygen capsules. And very, very, very important, because when we're compromised or in hypoxic state and there's a lot to clear, we want some more oxygen-free radicals to come in to help us quickly. That's why we get quite a big detox effect, and it's instant. The stomach works because the detox is working so quickly, and all the waste is leaving, the toxicity is leaving quickly. So we've got the capsules, and then we also have the drops as well, the active and the activator, and also working very, very quickly to go and scavenge all the horrible toxins. So the charge of this one will be normal oxygen, 1.3 volts. This one here is 0.95. It's less, the charge is less, so that's even easier for the body to use oxygen in this form than the normal breath. Compared to the charge from ozone, it's 2.5 volts. The charge of ozone, it's too strong for the normal cell. Do people understand that? So ozone affects every single cell, not positively. These little liquid drops will only target the wrongly charged matter in the body. It leaves the normal healthy cells. It knows exactly what should not be in the body. That's why it can get right into the cell and clean. If you get what I'm saying. So we're lucky about that. Very, very lucky. And then I've just also put together a bit of a COVID box, which is also on the site. And when we're wanting to blast symptoms like this, any symptoms actually, because it's all detox, we want to bring an iodine in probably first with a microbiome reset and some oil. We want to bring the para-immune defense in with or without the oil, depends. That's also fine. The herbal in 4 capsules at breakfast and 4 at about 12 o'clock. So we hit it hard quickly with the herbs. Already the symptoms will be reducing, and then we'll use the liquid oxygen probably from 2 o'clock onwards, because we don't mix the antioxidants with the oxidant. Okay, and this is a mineral, so that works on its own. The herbs work on their own, and the drops work on their own. The oil will work easily, and the microbiome reset easily with iodine and all the para-immune defense. Actually, haven't proved it, but when my dogs are sick, they get the drops and the microbiome together. It's just easier. So I don't think the microbiome it's not an antioxidant, or it's not going to interfere. It's going to be fine. But anyway, we just take it separately. So that's our COVID, the COVID box, you see, and then we get people better quickly. You can do these things prophylactically, 2 capsules of the para-immune, a couple of drops here, and a capsule of iodine once a day. Remember, iodine is also warding off radiation, and it's an important mineral for every single hormone receptor site, and most people are deficient. So, that just gives you some of the products that we work with. And, remember the flaxseed oil, most important, and the lung products. So, gets back to answering our question. The ways that show your lungs are not working well. Well, one of the ways is if you, that little children's game, but you can get obviously little equipment where you blow into it and you have to lift the balls. So if you don't have the capacity, it will show up straight away. We've got the quantum, the Q450 devices, which will show you exactly what's going on in the lungs. Whether there's resistance, which is indicating toxins and bacteria and funguses and so on. It will also tell you that there's too much carbon dioxide in the body. You're not breathing out properly. So that will tell you that the lungs are compromised for sure. And you go very blue if you don't have enough oxygen. And you're just going to have memory loss. You're not going to be able to think clearly, because we just need so much of oxygen per breath. So in answer to the question, if you're in hospital, whether you've got a ventilator or not, or even if you go to an allopathic doctor and you get an antibiotic, be aware. It's a warning, because when you only kill the bacteria, what about the funguses? What about the mycoplasmas? They flare up, and you can actually die from that. So in hospital, they'll just bring in more belts and buckles. They'll just keep adding antibiotics, keep putting you on the drip, and keep trying to save you. And then you will plummet. Then they'll try and resuscitate this whole thing and put the ventilator in and everything. But the main reason, the main cause was you got an antibiotic in the first place, and all the other organisms that you were co-hosting start growing excessively. So that's very, 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 very dangerous. So we need to bring in things over and above that, like herbal, para-immune boost, the cell oxygen, the flaxseed oil, hydrate. Vanessa, you might want to share personally the feeling, how it feels if you don't have enough oxygen coming in. There's a restriction in the chest, tightness, You know, the heart rate can go up and so on. So, you know, it boils down at the end of the day, there's only one person who's going to look after you, and that's you. And everything that we consciously do, we've got to ask ourselves, is this bringing life force in or isn't it? And if you're at a friend and you're having something out of the blue, you're having something really delicious to eat, you enjoy it and you bless it, all right? And if it's happening, you know, 5% of the time, it's fine. Your body will be clean and you can deal with it. But bless that food. Then it changes alchemically what it's going to do inside you. There we go. Vanessa's telling us there. That tightness in the chest I spoke about, that's definite. And you don't get the tingling that you get with the heart attack coming. You just get the tightness in the chest. Normally the blood pressure will go up though. And the mouth opening. Thanks, Vanessa. You just start gasping. And it's very, very, very scary. And as I said, your toxicity levels just rise because you're not getting them out. So it's catch-22. So the beautiful thing is we know what to do. And we can also help people. You know, we can start helping people. And I just say bring it on across the disease spectrum because we can help. You know, we've really cornered health. We know what we're doing. And isn't that really, you know, a ways with that you can really help people and live your purpose and so on? For me, it is. I thrive on successes, success for health across the board, physical, neurological, emotional, and spiritual. That consciousness is what I feed on. That's what feeds me. So raising other people's consciousness raises mine. And so on and so on and so on. So that gets back to then, you know, living your purpose and being healthy and being on purpose, living on purpose and in alignment. And no one's perfect. We're all at school. So we're all in the same classroom. We all have our own direct connection with the morphogenic field, the quantum field, the universal field, the God consciousness. And that's where we get our information. We go inside and can connect. So, you know, listening to going on courses, reading books, listening to people, it's useful. It would be a catalyst. And then make more sense and raise your consciousness so that when you are, you know, in the alignment, you are also downloading what you need. You see, so Vanessa's actually speaking from experience, and she's saying to you the blood pressure, it goes up instantly. And as she says, she was a low blood pressure patient. And I've had this with another patient as well. This other patient actually ate too late at night, all right? And the food and the weight pressed on the lungs, and the oxygen never came in. They couldn't get the oxygen in because of the pushing down of the weight of the food on the lungs. And that pushed the blood pressure right up. And we didn't know if it was actually a lung problem or a blood pressure. We didn't know if it was lungs problem or a stroke. But there was no tingling, so we knew it wasn't a stroke. You get a pain coming down the neck, down the arm, and little bit dizziness, little bit migraine. So we knew it wasn't that. As soon as the food moved through, everything normalized, then the oxygen came in. So yeah, everyone, you know, we can't play around with ourselves and get everything intact and working well. And to our Facebook listeners, thank you so much for joining us as well. Every Thursday at 7 o'clock South African time, we're here, we're sitting, we're learning, we're sharing, and you know, making a big impact on the people who we are in contact with in the world as a result of that. And I just also, people around the world, thanks so much for coming in and being with us. And, you know, we're only as good as each other, you know, put it that way. So we're just going to carry on with our program. And, you know, I've shared with you the live case studies. It's instant. It's actually it's quick to get the lungs back to normal. It's actually very quick. And those people with the breathing things, I think a good thing would be to get hold of the Wim Hof breathing, and the Ayurvedic alternative nostril breathing, and the other yoga one where you just get all that old carbon dioxide out. That's why we feel like we're walking on clouds at the end of a good yoga class, because we're alkaline, and that's the feeling we need to aim for. When we're alkaline, we don't get stressed, not so easily. Okay, everybody, until next week. And I've got the immune lecture already downloaded, ready to post from yesterday on reincarnation. So it's actually every Wednesday at 7 and every Thursday at 7 South African time, Greenwich Mean Time, plus 2 hours. I see all of you coming in and saying thanks, because I don't see all of you. So if I haven't acknowledged you, thank you so much for being part of everything. And I know, Dipti, you had another seminar, so thanks for crossing over to us too. And I think Dipti and I are going to put a turning point event together very shortly as well. So we'll have one of those definitely in June. Okay, go well, be well, and, you know, see how your energy field can radiate and change people around you. You'll be surprised. Okay. Bye for now. Pleasure, everyone. Thanks to you all.